Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Daytona office hours as always. Let's go over the last couple of releases. So last Wednesday we covered, I think, 0.32.0, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that should be it. So from that point on, we had 0.33.0 and 0.34.0. 33 was actually, as you can see, a lot of squashed bugs right here. So the two features we had was support creating multiple projects non-interactively. So now you could do Daytona. Sorry, again, let me just increase my font size. Keep forgetting to do that before this. I think 22 was fine, yeah. So now you can do Daytona create repo 1, repo 2, etc. So you don't have to actually go into the interactive prompt in the TUI to create multi-project workspaces. Then we have force build deletion. So this was done by Ivan. So just a new flag to Daytona build RM. So it's just a force flag which will force delete the build. This is actually useful when you have a problem with the build itself and it might not get deleted. For example, I don't know, the Docker image can get deleted or something like that. You can just force it to be deleted and then it will actually get removed from the Daytona server in a similar fashion to how Daytona workspaces are forcibly removed. Okay, so then the fix is escape get namespace when fetching from API. This is actually just a small fix to fetching the list of namespaces when the list of repos when doing Daytona create. Then we have dev container command definition, a fix by me. So just a small fix to the dev container definition that we have written in Go, and then some, let's say, other configurations wouldn't get parsed correctly and would just exit the creation process completely. Then we have a fix for control seeing out of cloning option selection. So before, I think this issue I raised or mentioned on the last office hours, where if you control C out of the cloning option selection TUI, it would actually proceed to go and create the workspace. Sorry, apologies. It will actually go and proceed to create a workspace. Then we have build container config by Ivan again. So this is a fix where we now have separate properties inside the build itself for the container config and the actual image and users that are produced by the build itself. This helps out while deleting the build, because now the process won't actually delete the build container image. It would just delete the image of the artifact of the build. Then we have another fix for control seeing out of the Daytona command. So before Daytona, when you run that and control C, it would actually, I'm pretty sure it would actually run the command that you were focused on. Then we have build run project config selection verb. This is again just a small UI fix, nothing special there. Sort build views by updated that. So now it will so when you list builds, oh yeah, so I don't have the server running. When you list builds, now they will actually get sorted by update that. Whereas before, I'm not even sure if they were sorted at all, but I think they were sorted by like the creation date, which doesn't make much sense since builds can be updated over time. So it makes more sense to update them, sort them by update that. So Daytona build ls. Yeah, as you can see, it will actually sort them by update that now. And as you can see, I haven't run builds in a while. Okay, so then we have Windows invalid user ID mapping. So we noticed, or actually not us, but an external contributor using Daytona on Windows noticed that we had some problems when creating different projects with different configurations, and now it should be resolved. It should not work on Windows the same way it does work on Mac and Linux. We just basically avoid doing the UID GID mapping when cloning the project. Then we have add selected project name to SSH and multi-project workspace. So one sec. Yeah, right. So another, I think a Slack community member noticed that when you when you do Daytona SSH and then provide a workspace name and the project name, or selected the project name in the TUI, it would actually always default to SSHing into the first project. So just a small fix in that sense. Then Daytona code windows for VS Code like IDEs. This is, I think, a fix for cursor and VS Code running on Windows. If we check out the changes, I think it was just escaping the, yeah, right. It was actually, let's say, inverting the arguments right here and in the cursor and VS Code command. So we're actually not quite sure why this is an issue, but it seems to be the solution. So that's it. So then the last fix of this release was pull image before building. So we noticed that if you don't have the build container image on your machine and run the build, it wouldn't actually pull the image before starting the build. So it would always error. And now we actually pull the image before starting the build itself. Then we have chores and tests. So John Wick, our external contributor, actually refactored all the HTTP status codes and errors in the Git provider APIs. So when you now do a request towards a Git provider, for example, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, or whatever, now the actual correct HTTP code is forwarded to the client. Or is this another PR? Wait 1 sec. Yeah, that's the correct PR. Okay. Yeah, Nico, make fun of me. So now when you do a fail in the in something that has to do with the Git provider, so for example, I can do Daytona GP new GitHub and then input an invalid token, I'll actually get the actual response from the GitHub API in this case, with the message and with the request that was made. So it's more clear to the user which request failed and for what reason. And lastly, we have use errors new for simple strings by Ivan, just some code refactor, nothing special here. And then we have some provider updates. So there was a couple of issues here that affected all providers. So the easiest way to upgrade for users is just Daytona provider update all. And we also have 2 new providers with this release that are now officially out of alpha. The first one is the Fly provider for Fly.io machines and the Azure provider that spins up Azure VMs, both of which can be installed with Daytona provider install. And it should be in the list. So we have Fly and Azure right here, or actually if you do Daytona target set, they also will be right here. I will have all of them installed, but if you don't, they will also show up in this list right here. So that's regarding 0.33.0. We can move on to 34. So we have a few features right here, which is display commits ahead and behind in DTN info. So this was done by Brian's Go. So if I create a workspace real quick, this actual change allows users to view more from the Git status of the project itself. Now the status will actually display if the branch is published or not, or if the branch is ahead or behind the upstream branch. I'll demo that really quickly. So now, as you can see, it's just the branch main. I'll just open up another terminal and say Daytona SSH this. And I can say, okay, let's check out the test. And now this branch doesn't actually have an upstream. And now if we do the Daytona info this, you can see, okay, now the branch is not published. Or if we switch back to main, so git checkout main and say, okay, touch test, git commit fix. And now if we do git status right here, you'll see that it is actually ahead of main by 1 commit. And here, if we do Daytona info again, it should say 1 commit ahead because it is ahead of the upstream branch. If the other way around was correct, if the upstream was, let's say, more recent, then it will say we were behind or any number of combinations in that sense. So this actual feature is a very good UX improvement because it allows users to actually view the Git status of the project without actually having to enter the workspace and then maybe, I don't know, commit or pull the changes before, I don't know, deleting the workspace. Okay, and then we have auto copy API key to clipboard. I won't actually show this command because it will leak my API key. But now when you run Daytona API key new, the command that it gets outputted into the terminal is automatically copied to your clipboard, so you can just paste it into your other terminal or share it around or whatever you like. And lastly, we have added support for Azure DevOps pre-built webhooks by Ansaman. So this now means that Daytona pre-built support Azure DevOps as a Git provider as well. I think we only have like 2 or 3 Git providers more to cover for pre-builds, and then we will basically cover all of them for pre-builds as well. A few fixes: GitLab remove fatal error when getting project from MR. So by Ivan, so this issue is again raised by an external contributor from our Slack community. The issue was that for GitLab Enterprise specifically, when you have a project and some PRs, or in that case MRs, raised on the project, but you don't have access to those projects themselves, the GitLab PR list would actually fail, and then the project couldn't get created. So this is just a small fix for that. And then the other fix is for the pre-build run prompt if flag is not provided. So Tarun contributed that the actually let's do Daytona PB new. So if I do a pre-build right here, sorry. Oh yeah, right. That's it. Daytona. My bad. This, and then this prompt right here doesn't get rendered if you do Daytona PB new run. Just a small UX tweak, so you don't have to make that extra enter if you actually want to run the pre-built automatically. And lastly, I added a makefile to the project. So this is a very interesting change because now with the makefile in the project, if we open it right here, it provides a very easy way to build Daytona for different OS and architecture combinations. So now the users that actually develop Daytona can run. Let me just show you in the dev container right here. So let's go to main and pull this. So here we can say, okay, make, build, and then OS Linux, or I can say OS Windows, and I don't know, Arch, AMD 64, and this would actually build Daytona for Windows and AMD 64. It would actually build it for the development version, which is 000-dev, and automatically store it on the right path that it has to get served on, which is, in this case, let me just check the make file. Oops, sorry, this is license. So in this case, it's the Daytona config dir, server, binaries, and then the version itself. So why is this, I wouldn't say important, but why is this a good change? Because now when users that develop Daytona on non-Linux systems can just use make, build, and make it for Linux, which is a requirement when creating workspaces, because the containers themselves are running Linux inside Docker. So just a small, I'd say, DX change, not a UX change. And that's it. That was the 2 releases from last week. This was yesterday, and the release before was on Friday. We have a release coming up on Friday, hopefully with some new changes. Let me check out what's lined up. I think we have a few changes lined up already. So let's do 35.0. And let's see what's going on. So yeah, we have a fix for the broken code of conduct link. This is just a repo fix. Then we have add Daytona restart workspace command. So Tarun actually, this is actually an issue from Nico. So Tarun implemented the Daytona restart command. So now you can restart workspaces with a single command. You don't have to do stop and then start manually. I fixed an issue with the verbose list inconsistency. So this was actually a very weird issue where sometimes when you do Daytona list -v or verbose, it would actually not show all the workspaces. For some reason, the API wouldn't return all the workspaces. This is just fixed for that. And lastly, we have a feature again by Tarun, which is to auto install remote SSH extension in VS Code. So this is basically a UX improvement for users that don't have the extension installed in VS Code but want to use Daytona with VS Code. We just now automatically install the extension itself, so the user doesn't have to worry about it. And this release will have a new contributor, which is I am Atinat, I think, who is a new contributor, which we always welcome, of course, to our repo. Then some open PRs that we have is fixed by me for some GitHub server context parsing issue. We also have a similar issue regarding GitHub. Sorry, this is not GitHub server, but Bitbucket server. We also have a similar issue facing Bitbucket users, which we will definitely post on a release on Friday. And then we, as I said in the last release, hopefully we will get the multi-profile support for Git providers over the finish line. It looks like to be almost ready, and hopefully we will get that ready on Friday. That's it for this these PRs. Nothing special in the new issue section. These are basically small bugs and improvements that we will tackle in the next releases, of course. That's it. If anyone has any questions, as always, feel free to ask. If not, I'll stop the recording. Then you can ask Ben or catch us up on Slack community, Twitter, email, LinkedIn. You know where to find us. Okay, so thanks for being here, and see you all on the next office hours.